Okay, so let's get into it on this episode of Film Fan. We are going to go with the legendary director, writer, producer who did Rage in Harlem. He did Hoodlum. He did Sister Act 2. Did anyone see Sister Act 2? Regardless, it's Bill Duke we're talking about. The guy who played Mac in the original Predator movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger. We're talking Laurence Fishburne, Jeff Goldblum, and we're going to add some hip-hop to the mix. We're going to add Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre with one of the greatest hip-hop songs, definitely from the West Coast of all time, a bona fide classic, deep cover, right here on Film Fan. Hey, welcome to Film Fan, my channel where I discuss movies and my passion for movies. And if that is also your thing and you want to hear me talk about movies, hit that subscribe button below, hit the notification bell so you are notified when I put up a new video. Let's get right into it. 1992, Deep Cover, directed by Bill Duke. This is another 1992 film. I did not do this on purpose. My last video was a 1992 film, Boomerang. And this was not on purpose, not intentional. I just ended up on Deep Cover, and it's also came out in 1992. So let's get into it. This is a film about a cop who early in his life, when he's a kid, when he's about 10 or 12 years old, he watches his drug addicted father try to rob a liquor store, and his father gets shot and killed right in front of him. So he dedicates his life to being a really good citizen and becoming a cop and never ever following the footstep of his father. So Laurence Fishburne plays the lead role. He plays the character of Russell Stevens. Russell Stevens is recruited by a DEA agent played by Charles Martin Smith, who's kind of like this sleazy Princeton graduate guy, pencil pushing dude who, you know, never had to deal with crime and be an actual cop. He just does everything from behind the scenes. Actually calls himself God. He thinks he's God. You know, he calls himself God because he knows so much of what's happening with every little detail. Also gives him the arrogance to pretty much talk to cops any way he seems fit. For example, when he's recruiting officers to figure out who's going to go undercover, he asks black cops the question of what's the difference between a black man and a nigger. This is just like, yeah, very racist. But anyway, Laurence Fishburne's character, Russell Stevens, answers that question the best and comes up with like the wittiest reply to that and kind of no nonsense reply to it. So they wind up recruiting Laurence Fishburne's character to go undercover. It also helps that his psychological profile scores exactly like a criminal, apparently, according to the DEA agent who recruits him. So he kind of like gives him this whole speech about how like your psychological profile scores just like a criminal. Your pent up aggression and anger and your hostility and unresolved issues of violence and all these different things that stem from his childhood that we can imagine kind of make him a good fit to go undercover and become a drug dealer. So that's what he does. He assumes an alias called John Hull. He moves into a shitty apartment in LA and he starts selling drugs. Now, apparently, it's very easy to become a drug dealer and take over a block. And it, you know, again, it's the movies. So because it's the movies, it actually is very easy. So Laurence Fishburne's character, again, undercover, named John Hull, goes in and becomes this drug dealer and starts to work his way through the ranks. Now, the mission from the DEA agent, what they want him to do is not just, they don't want him to get the little guys, the guys selling drugs in bags on the street. They want him to go and infiltrate the higher ups, the people who are the dealers selling to the dealers, selling to the dealers. And it's kind of like a plan to get to the top. And they want to nail these guys up there. And there's like a political figure at the very, very, very top. They don't quite want to get him, but they want to get everyone else underneath him. So that's what Laurence Fishburne's character is set out to do. And that's pretty much the movie. He winds up getting involved with David Jason. David Jason is played brilliantly by Jeff Goldblum. So Jeff Goldblum and Laurence Fishburne's character connect, and they wind up basically trying to sell a designer drug that Jeff Goldblum's character has come up with. It's kind of like Coke, but it's actually legal, and it's apparently a much better high. And David Jason has this whole plan where they're going to do that, and then they won't have to work for the other people selling drugs, and they'll be their own entity and they'll make tons of money. And that's basically the movie. Now, I don't want to give too much. So if you think I gave you a little bit of information on this channel, I have to talk about this. Now I got to talk about this because last night I was actually doing, let's just talk for a second. Let's just get into it. Let's just have a real conversation. Forget the, whatever. I was taping last night. My original plan, the way this works here on Film Fan, like usually like a Thursday night is when I will tape. And then Friday, I'll either edit and get it up on Friday evening or Saturday. And that's traditionally like the way I've been trying to do this. Remember, I'm kind of new to this, but that's what I've been doing. So I tried to tape last night and I wrote my script. And sometimes, I do the script and it's kind of like this presentation, like official, film reviewer presentation where I talk like this. And it's like, Deep Cover is a 1992 film starring Laurence Fishburne, who stars as Russell Stevens, an undercop who goes undercover to infiltrate, and I realized when I was doing that script last night and I was talking about the film, I talked about a lot of details with how Laurence Fishburne's character gets in, what he does, who he meets, how he meets them. And I realized that it's not the way I want to do it. So this is a spoiler-free channel. If I ever do a film review or talk about a TV show or a movie where I'm going to give you spoilers and reveal a lot of information, I will tell you ahead of time. I will probably put it in the thumbnail and the description and let you know. But for the most part, my passion and what my channel is about is sharing with you movies that you probably didn't see, or I shouldn't say probably didn't see, but movies maybe you didn't see. This is from 1992. This is an old film. So if you haven't seen it and I start talking about like how Laurence Fishburne character meets this one and how he meets that one and how this happens and how he gets involved with Jeff Goldblum's character and what happens next and how it ends, I'm giving away too much information. I don't want to do that. I always want to be conscious of the fact that if you haven't seen this, I want you to watch this with the same sort of feeling that you should get when I first saw this movie. So I just wanted to give you a quick note on that. So when I was doing my notes and everything last night, I realized I talked too much and I gave way too much information. So here we are again, taping now, and I'll get this video to you soon. So just keep that in mind. If you haven't seen this, you're the people I'm thinking of. If you have seen this, just bear with me because you already know what happens. So what I will do is share with you a few more details, and I'll talk to you about my passion for like why I actually like the movie, what makes it so compelling to watch, and that's my thing here. So let's talk about the other thing. So as far as the script goes, it's a really good script. It's a great script because it's not a great script that's attempting to be a good script, if that makes any sense. It just works very well. There's some silliness to it. There's some obvious, just kind of like, okay, that's kind of odd or weird. Like the fact that they took a guy who's got a psychological profile that scores like a criminal, but for some reason they still made him a cop. Like that's a big problem, right? I don't even want to get into the like how that's relevant right now. But anyway, so, that's kind of silly. The fact that he becomes a drug dealer and gets into the game and starts meeting all these people. Coincidentally, it just kind of all works out for him right away. And next thing you know, he's meeting people at the top. That seems kind of fast because there's no real passage of time here. It seems to happen almost overnight for him. So that's kind of weird, but overall it's a really good script. The acting is really great. So Laurence Fishburne's character does just a really great job. He just delivers he's got the gravitas, Laurence Fishburne, just to do this just the right way. Jeff Goldblum's character. Jeff Goldblum's one of my favorite actors, and he brings his Jeff Goldblum cool and swag to this film in a way that you really hadn't seen him do prior to this film. So he's kind of cool. He's witty. He's charming. He's kind of funny. He's slight racist underneath somewhere, but it just plays. He just does a good job in the role. Clarence Williams III is in this movie. He does a fantastic job. He plays like a Christian cop who's a really good officer, who's a really good guy, who's trying to kind of like get Laurence Fishburne's character on the straight and narrow. So I won't give too much of that away, but really great character, really great performance by Clarence Williams III. Cinematography was done by Borjan Bazzelli, I believe his name is. Let me see. I have it here somewhere. Got it in my notes. See? Keep notes. Let's find it. But it's the same guy who did King of New York, which is another drug crime thriller. Yeah, Borjan Bazzelli, cinematographer who did King of New York. Christopher Walken, classic New York crime drama, one of the best in history. I will be getting into that on this channel, trust me. But if you've seen King of New York and you've seen Deep Cover, you'll see the similarities in lighting and some of the scenes. One of the interesting things to note. It's Friday. The use of blue and red that he uses in a lot of the scenes with Laurence Fishburne. So you'll see like these striking, like deep shades of blue and red. So much to the point where there's a scene where he's walking through a club. Laurence Fishburne's walking through a club and he's like literally split between blue and red light, which, to me, obviously depicts this idea of the split worlds that Laurence Fishburne is navigating between being a cop and then being a bad guy. So the blue representing this dark underworld kind of thing, and the red representing the police and that whole thing. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the red is the evil bad side, and the blue represents the cop side. But it shows that. And so the cinematography is pretty good in this film as well. Also, one of the interesting things is Laurence Fishburne's character having to deal with that life of going undercover as a cop. Early in the movie, the DEA agent, why do I have a hard time saying that? The DEA agent who recruits Laurence Fishburne to go undercover gives him this whole speech about why he's going to make a difference in the world by being this drug dealer undercover. Because Laurence Fishburne's character talks to him and at first rejects the idea of even doing this. He's just totally against it. He's never had a drink in his life. He's very adamant about that. He even tells him, because I've never had a drink, I've never touched anything, and I've been like that my whole life. And the agent convinces him, look, dude, like, if you really want to make a difference in the world, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to go undercover and you're going to infiltrate and you're going to get these guys. So it's interesting because you watch Laurence Fishburne's character have to, again, navigate that world and get into it. And when he gets into it, he's good at it. And then he realizes the deeper he goes, in his mind, the more difference he's making. But the problem with that is the deeper you go, also, the more that line gets blurred between good and evil and between being a cop and being a drug dealer. And it's that point where he gets lost and you kind of watch that happen. So that's really interesting. Also, the voiceover in this is really good. If you look at, if you've taken like a screenwriting course or film, and you study film, they usually tell you, like in screenwriting, that use of voiceover is lazy, or it's not necessarily, it's usually frowned upon. But if it's done correctly, like we've seen in a lot of classic films, like, Taxi Driver, Clockwork Orange, Kill Bill, Fight Club, Usual Suspects, if the voiceover is done well, then it works great in a film. And in this case, because of Laurence Fishburne's delivery and his voice, it just works really, really great. It's very poetic and has this very kind of like really smoothness to it throughout the film. What else can I talk about? There's a love interest in the film. You need that. It's a drug crime movie. You got to have a woman in this film. So Victoria Dillard, the lovely Victoria Dillard, who I've always thought was one of the most insanely beautiful women in Hollywood at that time. She was in Ricochet with Denzel Washington. She played his wife in that, which we'll get into that film at some point. But she plays a love interest. She's a art dealer, or she works for an art gallery, ethnic art gallery, and they are the front. They launder the money for the drug dealers in this film. So that's her role. And Laurence Fishburne and her obviously kind of hook up, and that's kind of like the love thing. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But that's it. So there's some really great characters in this. The performances by Fishburne, the performances by Jeff Goldblum, the performance by Roger Guenveur Smith, who plays one of the characters. He plays like this really flamboyant, crazy, insane drug dealer named Eddie, and it's a memorable performance by him. There's a really cool limo chase scene in here that just like everything goes wrong. It's like this crazy limo car chase thing with Jeff Goldblum going nuts in the back seat of the car, and Laurence Fishburne is driving, and it's really out of control and it's nuts. And you will remember that. So again, not going to give too much away, but it's a really good scene. So this is a film that if you've not seen it, you're going to almost like kick yourself when you see it. You're like, how did I not see that? Especially if you're a Laurence Fishburne fan or a Jeff Goldblum fan. So Deep Cover. You got to see this. What I'm going to do is put it in the description below, as I usually do. I'll put like whatever services it's currently streaming on. And I will also place the Amazon link for the actual DVD where you can purchase it if you're a film collector and somebody who wants to actually own the movies. Now, this is another black film from 1992. For some reason, I didn't make it to Blu-ray. Like, they didn't do a Blu-ray transfer of this. I don't know why. Same thing with Boomerang. The last film I reviewed on this channel, they don't have a Blu-ray of it. It's just DVD. So anyway, it's still enjoyable. All right, that's it for me on Film Fan. Real quick, if you've seen this movie, you've seen Deep Cover, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it and if you think it's as good as I thought it was. And it definitely qualifies as a classic. If you've not seen it, make sure you see it. Do not Wikipedia it. Do not Google it and look at all the information and see what happens. Just enjoy it as it's meant to be enjoyed. You will love it. And when you do see it, come back, leave comments. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Again, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit that little notifications bell so you know when I put up new content. And wait a minute, before I end this, I did mention Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre at the beginning of this, and one of the greatest hip hop songs in history, Deep Cover. That was the introduction to Snoop Dogg. So if you know Snoop Dogg's history and you know Dr. Dre's history, that this film, the title track from this film with Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, 187 on the Undercover Cop, that is Snoop Dogg's introduction to the world, and he's a living legend. So that song is one of the greatest songs in hip hop history. To me, it's one of the greatest songs in hip hop history. It's a memorable, timeless classic, and definitely one of the greatest songs coming out of the West Coast. So I wanted to, I'd feel stupid if I didn't mention that in this video review. So anyway, that's that. All right. So again, if you haven't seen it, check the links below. Make sure you see Deep Cover. If you have seen it, let me know what you think about it. Also, remember this. If a movie is 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, 50 years old, doesn't matter. If you've never seen it, it's a brand new movie to you. So enjoy it. So go ahead and watch a movie, lose yourself in the movies, find yourself in the movies, love the movies, and I will see you on the next Film Fan. Take care.